Snow fell in sheets over the ridge, blanketing the ground in silence as the wind howled between craggy peaks. Beneath the whiteout, nestled in a valley of steel pine and frostroot, a small dome home pulsed faintly with life. Inside, the hearth's synthetic flames flickered warm light against metal walls, casting shadows that danced across a child's drawing taped to the counter. Morgan adjusted the worn strap on her thermal vest and glanced at the monitor embedded in the wall. Clear skies 5 minutes ago. Now, static-laced interference. She narrowed her eyes. Solar flares didn't act like that. Neither did the weather systems here, too stable. Her fingers moved quickly, switching channels, searching for clean frequencies. Behind her, laughter erupted. Her daughter, Kaya, was twirling in oversized socks, her dark curls bouncing as she spun across the floor. Beside her, Leo sat cross-legged, assembling a crude sensor array from spare drone parts. His brow furrowed with the same quiet intensity Morgan had learned to read on herself in mirrors. He was only 11, but his mind worked like clockwork. "Mom," he said, not looking up. The proximity net blinked about 20 seconds ago. Just for a moment. Then reset. Morgan froze. "You sure?" He nodded. She turned to the wall and yanked open a panel, revealing a dusty console lined with old tech. Her fingers danced across it, eyes scanning code. A single line pulsed red. Motion detected, Western Quadrant. Then it was gone. Not animals. Not snow. Something else. The chill that ran through her wasn't from the cold. "Pack your kits," she said. Her voice was steady, clipped. Kaya stopped mid-spin, wide-eyed. Leo stood without a word. "Is it happening again?" he asked. Morgan didn't answer. Instead, she opened a crate beneath the floor hatch and pulled out the matte black case. The air changed when she opened it, like something sacred had been disturbed. Inside, a sleek exosuit folded into itself, humming faintly with dormant power. It bore no insignia, no flags, no rank, no past. She hadn't worn it in 8 years. But she remembered how. Outside, the snow ceased abruptly. The wind stopped. A wrongness filled the air, like breath held too long. Then came the hum, low, resonant, almost imperceptible. It vibrated through the bones. Morgan had one rule that overrode all else: protect the children. She sealed Kaya's coat herself, adjusting the straps. "Go down into the crawl vault," she said. "You remember the drills?" Kaya nodded, lips trembling. "Will you come too? I will find you. No matter what." She placed her palm on Kaya's cheek. "I always will." Leo handed her a drive. "This has our location data, drone paths, and the signal pings. In case they try to scramble." "Good work." She tucked it into her belt. By the time the kids were beneath the floor and the hatch sealed, the hum had grown into a thrum. The sky outside rippled like water disturbed by stone. She stepped into the suit. It folded around her like a second skin, its systems syncing with her breath and muscle. HUD flared across her vision, overlaying the terrain, atmospheric anomalies, and a single blip, fast approaching. Morgan pushed open the door and stepped into the snow. The world had gone silent. Not even birds. Above, the clouds split like they'd been torn. A ship dropped through, angular, black, unlike any she'd seen during her service. No registration beacons. No transponders. They weren't here to talk. She aimed her eyes at the sky. No missiles. No plasma charge. They weren't here for her. Then it hit her. They were here for what she protected. Her legs moved before thought caught up. She sprinted through snow, breaking back into the house just as the ceiling above the hearth buckled inward. A pulse of gravity knocked her off balance. Furniture lifted and hovered in midair. A low-frequency vibration rattled the very air. And then the light came, violet, blinding. It lanced through the structure and struck the floor. The vault hatch glowed. "No!" she screamed, throwing herself forward. The hatch began to rise, not from inside, but pulled by unseen force. She grabbed the edge, fingers locking under steel, and pulled down with every ounce of augmented strength. It was no use. She caught a glimpse, Kaya's face lit in panic, Leo shouting her name, and then they were gone, swept up into the light like leaves on the wind. Then the light blinked out. The ship was already ascending, fast as a bullet. Morgan ran outside, a scream burning in her throat, too raw to be words. The sky sealed shut behind the craft. No afterburn. No sonic boom. Just silence. She dropped to her knees, snow melting around the suit's heat vents. Then she stood. Not slowly. Not shakily. With purpose. Back inside, she disabled the house's comm node, smashed the emergency beacon, and triggered the black box wipe. No breadcrumbs. No traces. She peeled open a hidden wall panel and removed a cylinder no larger than a thermos. Inside, an encrypted data stick, a neural lace plug, and a sigil, 3 sharp slashes carved into obsidian glass. Her old squad's mark. She swore she'd never use it again. But this wasn't about war. It was about her children. She tapped the sigil against the neural plug. It blinked once, then glowed red. Somewhere, an old signal went live. Then she walked to the back of the house, pulled the tarp off the long-buried transport bike, and kicked the engine into gear. It roared to life, eager as ever. She fed the drive Leo gave her into the dash slot. A star chart unfurled. She mapped the trajectory based on the ship's escape vector. No time for precision. Just rage and momentum. As the sun rose over the icy ridge, Morgan was already gone, a blur of black and fire racing across the tundra. The hunt had begun. The stars blurred past the viewport in streaks of electric blue as Morgan sat motionless in the pilot's seat, arms braced, jaw clenched. The smuggling ship rattled against the strain of unauthorized warp travel, but she didn't flinch. Every vibration, every hiccup of the battered engine, faded beneath the singular rhythm of her thoughts. Find them, get them back. The ship belonged to an old associate she hadn't seen in years, a half-mechanical drifter named Deck, who'd once owed her his life 3 times over. She hadn't needed to call in all 3 favors. One had been enough to get a ship, a warpath, and silence. Deck had simply said, "You're scarier now than you were in the war," and left her with the codes. She'd spent the first few hours of the flight reassembling her weapons kit from parts stashed in hidden panels. Old military tech, banned in half the system she was flying toward. Pulse shock rifles, cryocharges, neural disruptors. The kind of gear that turned a lone operative into an extinction event. Her armor had synced seamlessly with the ship's systems. AIs whispered updates directly into her field of vision. Trajectory confirmed. Estimated intercept, 36 hours. Her mind stayed with Kaya and Leo, replaying their faces, the tremble in Kaya's voice, the fury in Leo's eyes. She didn't let herself linger on possibilities. Fear was a tool to be held, not lived in. The trail led to an unregulated trade zone outside syndicate borders, a floating junkyard moon called Argivan's Ring. The place was a pit of barter and blood, a cesspool where ethics and air quality were equally toxic. As she approached orbit, the ship's scanners flagged a transmission, encrypted trade comms bouncing from deep within the ring's black market sector. They bore a match, faint, broken, but unmistakable. The same frequency used during the abduction. Not a direct line. A breadcrumb. She locked it in and descended. Docking required no permissions, just credits. She paid in old, untraceable chits. The dockhand, a scaled, 4-eyed thing with too many fingers, didn't ask questions. He looked once at her armor and looked away. Inside the station, smoke and neon formed a permanent haze. Smugglers, mercenaries, scavengers of every species crowded narrow corridors. She moved like shadow through them, her presence parting them without a word. Her HUD picked up biometric signatures, flagged known syndicate associates, mapped routes. 3 minutes in, she spotted her mark, a mid-level trafficker named Rilvek, known for moving rare biologicals through illicit tech markets. He was reptilian, short-tempered, and arrogant enough to think no one could touch him. He didn't see her coming. One hand on his collar, one on his spine, she dragged him into an alley, slammed him against a rusted service door, and activated her suit's neural lance. It pulsed through his nervous system, paralyzing everything but thought and pain. "You moved human cargo 3 nights ago," she said coldly. "Where?" I don't know what you're talking about. The lance intensified. Sector 9. Warehouse Delta, he shrieked. But it's not me. I don't move kids, I just signal for pickup. Names. Routes. He gave her 4 before he passed out from the pain. She left him breathing. Barely. Warehouse Delta was a mess of scaffolding and stolen tech. Guards posted at every entry point, species she didn't recognize, all wired with augmentations. They were expecting trouble. They got more than that. She dropped 2 sentries silently from the ceiling vent, disabled 3 more with flash pulse grenades, and stormed through the side entrance like a thunderclap. Her rifle barked in bursts of plasma light. Within 60 seconds, she'd cleared the floor. Only one escaped, a runner trying to flee into the access tunnels. She caught him before he reached the door, tackled him, and pinned him with a boot to his chest. Where are the children? He spat blood and sneered. You're too late. They're already off-world. Which world? He didn't answer fast enough. She activated the lance, cranked it beyond safe levels. He screamed something guttural. Perev Station. Research Sector. Before he lost consciousness. She stepped over his body and turned to the terminal at the far end of the room. Her AI linked with it in seconds, pulling manifest data, transport logs, biological scans. She found them. Her children's names, encoded, tagged as live specimens. Transit log confirmed. They were en route to Perev Station, an unlisted facility orbiting a gas giant deep in Syndicate space. Registered under a research faction called the Veil Initiative. She leaned back from the console. Research wasn't the right word. She knew the Veil. They'd been a rumor during her time in Special Ops, an ultra-secret wing of the Syndicate's tech mutation program. They didn't study children. They modified them, broke them down, rebuilt them. Her hands clenched. She had 36 hours to reach the station before her children disappeared into a hole no one had ever crawled back from. She left Argavin's ring in flames. By the time security responded, she was already gone, and 3 Syndicate supply ships were slagged beyond recovery. She needed an entry point, someone who knew how to get inside without being shredded by the station's defense grid. She knew just the scum for the job. Galax was part mechanic, part informant, and entirely a coward. She found him floating in a bar orbiting the edge of the Veil's dead zone, bragging about running classified shipments to a pair of off-duty pirates. He didn't brag long. She broke his arm in 2 places and waited for the whimpering to stop before speaking. I need a path to Perev, she said. You can't just go there. It's not a place you walk into. She broke his wrist. Okay, but there's a garbage route. Supply haulers in, bio-waste out. They scan for weapons and DNA, but wait. I can get you credentials. A pass. But you'll need someone on the inside to trigger the airlock. Who? There's a tech, they call her Vesh. She hates what they do. She helped a batch of kids escape last year. They say she's still there, working covert. If anyone can get you in, it's her. Morgan considered it. Galax gave her Vesh's encrypted comm tag. A one-use frequency. She left him bleeding and breathing. Back aboard her ship, she loaded the data into the comm system and opened a channel. No words. Just a code phrase from a long-dead resistance op. I serve the broken stars. 10 seconds passed. Then came the reply. And light their fire anew. Vesh. They spoke only once. Vesh would trigger the docking clamps from the inside, give her a 4-minute window. No weapons. No signals. Just stealth and speed. It would be enough. Morgan powered down the ship's offensive systems and initiated the burn toward the station. The ship shifted, silent as death, sliding between asteroid fields and radiation belts like a ghost. The final approach was tense, her heart hammering against steel ribs. Perev Station emerged from the shadows of the gas giant like a wound in space, black, spined, unnatural. Lights blinked across its hull like hungry eyes. As her ship locked into position, the station sent a single automated ping. She responded with a forged cargo manifest. Inside the crate bay, she crouched, weaponless, waiting. The clamps clicked. There hissed. The doors opened. Morgan stepped into the dark of the galaxy's most feared lab, her eyes hard, her breath steady. And she smiled, just slightly, because now she was inside. The corridor swallowed her whole. Lights flickered dimly above, casting sterile shadows over polished metal walls. Morgan moved like a wraith, low, swift, precise. Her armor, stripped to non-lethal materials to bypass biometric scans, still moved like part of her body. In place of heavy weapons, she carried a compact array of stealth tools, monomolecular wires, flash disorienters, a stolen admin keycard clipped to her inner wrist, and one last resort, a dermal patch laced with kinetic explosives, enough to breach a wall if she had to punch out fast and loud. The hallway branched into a triad of routes. Her HUD flashed red, heat signatures, subtle and distant, marked 2 of them as patrolled. The third, cool and silent, led to the lower decks, where the manifest listed non-integrated specimens. That was bureaucratic code for subjects too volatile or undeveloped to be processed. She hoped, knew, that Kaya and Leo were there. She took the third path, gliding down the ramp with methodical grace. The station groaned faintly around her, ancient alloys under constant strain, like the very structure resented its purpose. Every door she passed was sealed, the windows blackened or reinforced with dull steel. But beneath one, just one, her HUD pinged faint traces of human DNA. Faint. Recent. She bypassed the lock with Vesha's override key. The door hissed open an inch. Voices. 2 guards, unaware of her presence, stood inside the observation bay. One leaned against a console, the other watching monitors. They joked in hushed tones, utterly unprepared. She slipped behind them and used the wire. The first fell with a flick to his throat. The second turned, eyes wide, a hand reaching for a comm, before her boot caught him in the knee and her elbows snapped across his jaw. He collapsed without a sound. She dragged them out of view, disabled the cams, and approached the terminal. Rows of numbers, specimen codes, vitals, then photos. Blurry, infrared stills taken within containment cells. Her children. Side by side. Kaya's face was pale but defiant, even in sleep. Leo curled tightly, arms around his knees, but his jaw was set like stone. The timestamp showed it was minutes old. Her pulse spiked. Coordinates flashed beneath the image. Sublevel 13. Containment B-Net. She memorized the route. Halfway to the lift, static crackled in her comms. Morgan. Vesha's voice was hushed but urgent. I've been discovered. They're triangulating. You need to hurry. How much time? Minutes. Maybe less. Understood. Morgan didn't run. She surged forward like a missile. The lift descended in silence. With each meter, her muscles coiled tighter. There'd be guards. Scientists. Automated defenses. She didn't care. The lift stopped. 3 operatives waited just outside, black-clad, masked, armed. They weren't expecting her to leap forward before the doors were fully open. She slammed into the first one with a shoulder strike that fractured his collarbone, twisted midair, drove her elbow into the second's throat, and spun low to sweep the third off his feet. They fought like elites, trained, fast, brutal. But she was faster. Hungrier. By the time the last one fired a shot, she was already behind him, hand over his weapon, wrenching it from his grip and driving it back into his face. She left them broken. Containment B9 was around the corner. Access required biometrics. The admin keycard wasn't enough. Morgan scanned the fallen operative's glove, yanked it free, and pressed his hand against the reader. The door opened. She stepped into a room humming with cold, artificial air. Rows of containment pods lined the walls, some empty, others filled with sedated forms. Then she saw them. Kaya's eyes flickered open first. Her face, pale with sedation, brightened the moment it focused. Mom. Morgan moved forward, her breath catching. I'm here, baby. I've got you. Kaya stumbled from the pod. Morgan caught her, cradling her close, whispering reassurance she hadn't dared hope to say. Behind her, Leo stirred. He blinked in disbelief, then grinned despite the fog in his brain. You really came, he said. Of course I did. Alarms blared. They had minutes, maybe less. Morgan moved fast. She pulled them both close, injecting counter-serums into their arms, waking them fully. Stay close to me. Do not stop. Do not speak unless I tell you. Understand? They nodded. She took their hands. They fled through the halls like smoke through cracks. Vesh's voice returned, rasping with pain. I can open one more route. Maintenance shaft. It bypasses upper security. Do it. The shaft door slammed open just as a security team rounded the corner behind them. Plasma bolts scorched the walls. Kaya cried out, pulling Leo down. Morgan raised a pulse shield, deflecting shots, then launched a cryo disc over her shoulder. The corridor froze mid-fire. They ran. Up through dark, narrow service tunnels, past generators and coolant lines, Morgan hauled her children with a ferocity only desperation could birth. The route Vesh unlocked led to the outer ring, a secondary hangar used for waste disposal and covert dispatch. She had stashed a micro-escape pod in a backup launch chute earlier, hidden behind a scaffold panel. She reached it. Set the sequence. But she paused. Over the comm, Vesh coughed, wet, sharp. They're coming for me. You need to go. Now. Where are you? Level 5. But it's locked. They've rerouted the doors. I won't make it. Morgan looked at her children. I'm going for her. No. Kaya cried. We're here. That's what matters. I don't leave people behind. Ever. She activated the launch countdown, set it for 2 minutes. Turned to Kaya. You're the oldest. Keep Leo safe. When that light hits green, press the button. No matter what. Kaya's eyes filled. She nodded. Morgan sprinted back into the dark. Level 5 was a charnel house. Sirens wailed. Flames licked from breached coolant lines. Gunfire echoed down every corridor. She cut through chaos like a blade. Vesh was pinned behind a collapsed bulkhead, blood trailing down her arm. Her eyes widened when Morgan arrived. You idiot, she said faintly. Come on. She dragged Vesh free, one arm around her shoulder, half carrying her toward a secondary evac route Vesh herself had mapped in her terminal. The veil didn't stop her. They couldn't. She left a trail of destruction in her wake, automatic turrets sliced by exposed wiring, doors overridden, operatives stunned or silenced. She moved with righteous violence. The fire of every lost soul burned into her memory, fueling her wrath. When she finally reached the chute, the pod had launched. Morgan's heart staggered. But her HUD pinged a success beacon. Kaya had done it. They were away. Headed toward the dead drop deck had promised on the outer rim. She allowed herself a moment, just one, to breathe. Then she grabbed Vesh tighter, activated the fallback escape pod, and fired it into the void. It was over. The pod drifted in silence. Stars winked past. Vesh, pale and half-conscious, muttered something about freedom. Morgan held her hand. She didn't cry. Not yet. But when the beacon pinged again, this time from Kaya's pod, alive and intact, she smiled. Because they had taken her children. And in doing so, they'd taught the galaxy one final truth. You do not cross a mother who remembers the war.